Yes, hello, folks. Welcome to the weekly Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Phil Brand, joined with my regular co-host, the excellent James Rhodes, on this Monday morning, Jamesy, after an excellent win against Crystal Palace, and of course, we had our Thanksgiving last week, so we had a few days off. How was your weekend at your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was good. It's a good week. I mean, kids at school off the whole week, so it makes it makes it challenge. Everything you do that whole week is like a challenge. It's fighting. It's figuring out the time to get anything done. So tiring, not as restful as it could be, but it was good otherwise. Had family from out of town in, so just very busy. Just a busy weekend in general, but nice. And now it's freezing cold. We got our first snow of the year, which is really late, and huddled inside, warming up, and
Not here,
at
man.
least
I'm
the
still on my
football's
shorts
back.
and t-shirt.
Oh yeah. No, but you know what's crazy, right? Just for anybody who's not American watching, it snowed this year in Hawaii
um,
before it snowed here in Colorado, and it's like it's nuts that happened. We had like 200 something days without snow. It's the latest it's ever been in the season. It snowed in Hawaii, which is insane, before it
Um,
snowed here.
we the week before this we had like 7 days of rain, and
Yeah.
LA gets one day of rain. You
Yeah.
were underwater, like it's a totally
Yeah.
cataclysmic event. But I mean, everything shuts down.
Yeah.
It's forget about anything outdoors. You'd think they're going outside in the nuclear apocalypse, when it rains
Right.
here. But I have to say, it was nice actually to get a bit of rain and a wee bit of change from. I mean,
Mm.
it sounds silly, but sometimes getting the same weather every day is a bit. It
Gets
was nice.
boring, huh? Yeah.
Yes, had a nice Thanksgiving as well,
That's good.
and I had an especially very good Sunday, mate.
Yeah.
Actually stayed up. I had friends here Saturday night. They left at like 2 in the morning. The match was at 4. And I'm like, no. If I fall asleep now, there is zero chance of me getting up, right? They're like, John the Wick King tucked up at 4 in the morning. I'm like, there's no chances of it happening, right? And so I stayed up. And at the end of the first half, I'm regretting this decision by the end of the second half. I most certainly was not. Um, I have to say, Jamesy, the 2-1 victory was not expected, but absolutely ecstatic. I don't think
Mm.
too many of us were extremely confident going into this game. But what was interesting was at halftime, Amarine was losing that game, and at full time, Man United won that game. It wasn't Amarine that won
Yeah, it wasn't
it.
anymore, was it? All right. No, it is funny because, it was 5 a.m. for me, a little bit different. I have trouble getting to sleep anyway when it's like a game that early and I know I got to be up and
Yes, you're
everything.
waking up every half an hour.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember I got to my computer to get ready to watch the game and all that, and I'm seeing your tweets, and I'm like, "Oh shit, Phil's up. We better win this, or tomorrow's gonna be brutal." Like, listen, it bothers the hell out of me, but if Phil was up at 4 in the morning to watch this and it's shit, we're gonna have a rough
Man,
day
I'm the I'm
tomorrow. But
I'm the light to your darkness. I'm the you're the cloud. I'm the
but
sunshine.
you
Right?
were
You know
like,
that.
my do you ever see the Key and Peele thing with the anger translator for Obama? Sometimes I feel like that, but
Do you know what though? We surprised each other. I think
yeah,
you might have thought I was going to be really angry after the Everton game, and I was defending Amorim. And then
yeah,
sometimes
true,
you just
yeah,
never know.
yeah.
But
You
yes,
you do,
go
you
ahead,
do.
man.
But that's having an open mind and be looking at things and not being stuck in our ways, which I think is important. But yeah, it was. I felt the same as you, and I was looking at the halftime, and I was like, "Fuck's sake, man! Another game, early kickoff, away in London, same as ever, listless, unenergetic, lacking in intensity, lacking in
Yeah.
focus, lacking. It's like I've said many times to you on this podcast. I hate when I get up for those early games and I feel like the players are not, you know, putting in that level of effort. And here's the thing, it's happened a lot. I mean, the craziest stat about all of this, which is why we should be very, very happy with this win, is of course not only have Crystal Palace not lost 12 in a row before that at home. They were 12 undefeated, means they
Hopefully they
played a lot
updated
of
their
teams.
bio.
Yeah, yeah. But in addition, the last time United beat a team in London in the Premier League that wasn't Fulham, was Mason Greenwood's last game in a United shirt. That is the last time.
Unbelievable.
It's insane. January 19, 2022 was the last time United won an away game in London that wasn't Fulham. Because there's a lot of London teams. There was 23 games against teams not named Fulham before this that they had failed to win till this game. So there's during this kind of stretch, these last 7 games, 1 loss to Everton, right? It was Brighton that they hadn't beaten in forever, Liverpool they hadn't beaten at Anfield in forever, Palace
Mhm.
that, they hadn't beaten away in ages and ages. These are good signs, and that second half was really, really promising, like we've seen with some of those late responses, to turn it around and not just go the way of the beginning all the way to the end, but actually change during the game.
Yeah, how do you react to being 1-0 down away from home?
Yep.
Usually with United, when you get the good half, the bad half, it's the good half is the first half, the bad half is the second
Yep.
half. Before this game, I felt like, James, this was Amorim v Glasner's system, and I
Mhm.
felt that Amorim had to win that argument,
Yeah.
as he should. If you listen to Glasner after the game talk about how Palace, didn't invest, they saved, he didn't get the players. He lost his best
Mhm.
player as they Amarim's been given players to build that Glasner wasn't. And yes, there's variation within the system between both
Yep.
systems. That's understandable, as it always will be.
Yep.
But I felt like this was a really pivotal game for Amarim in a way that other games weren't, because the systems match up, because he's playing against Palace, who, as you quite rightly say, coming into this game, I guess 12 unbeaten teams.
Mhm.
Defensively, they were excellent. There is no team in the Premier League that wouldn't look at 3 points of Palace as being an exceptional 3 points.
Yep.
Um, but for Amorim, this was almost a litmus test of, you know, how well is this system working for you,
Yep.
and is there something, because if you were going to sack Ruben Amorim, Glasner would have to be on the list, James, because you have to have somebody that knows how to play the system. United are committed to the system now, no matter what.
Yep.
I think you have to give huge credit to Amorim. Second half, there was definitely a response, but 2 goals from set pieces from 2 players United are going to need scoring goals.
Mhm.
When Bimo isn't scoring, that responsibility has to be spread across the team. 2 players that have been questioned, and those goals will also have an added dividend beyond the win. That'll give them a lot of confidence.
For sure, exactly. Well, we spoke about how obviously with Sheshko and Cunha out, there's one new outfield player in this team from a team that finished 15th, right? And that's Brian Mbumo out there. So if Mbumo's not going to score, you really, really, like I say, you need these other guys to have an impact, because someone's got to do something. Someone's got to make something happen. Somebody has to step up. We saw with Joshua Xerxes, we've discussed a lot, like this is his chance. These next few games, this is his chance. Everton was poor. Seeing him step up, really improve in that second half against Palace, get a really, really nicely taken goal from
Mhm.
him. Just a wonderful finish. But not only that, even the second goal, he flies way out wide, flicks it off his head onto Dowlow, who ends up getting fouled for the second set piece goal. He was good. He was impactful. These are the opportunities. They come when they come. Barely played before these last 2 games. You have to seize these kinds of moments for yourself, but that's what a team needs, right? To be good, you're never gonna have. Yeah, I mean, United's first 11 isn't its ideal 11 yet. But even beyond that, you're always going to have something in the way of your first 11. You've got AFCON coming up, things like that too. And I thought it was really positive to see United win a game that wasn't Ahmad and Mbumo, doing it. That's a big, big thing. They need a squad to
Mhm.
carry through the season.
2 goals from set pieces, James. I think United now tied with Arsenal for most goals in the
Yeah.
league for
Did they
set
score
pieces.
one at the weekend? Was it a set piece they scored against Chelsea after that? I know at full time they were tied according
Yeah,
to the
so they're
broadcasters. I don't
thereabouts.
know.
But
Yeah.
when Arsenal were being criticised for scoring from corners and throw-ins, I distinctly remember saying there's beauty in simplicity.
Mm,
There's nothing wrong with scoring goals from set pieces. And in some ways, James, it's maybe getting the game back from all the Puritans, saying, look, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with this. And when you're not creating from open play, scoring goals from open play, you better be a threat on set pieces.
yeah.
And there was a set piece in the first half that infuriated me. You need to get a free kick out on the left hand side. And Bumo swings the cross in. It hits the first defender, but United's players, there's no one even close to the front post. I mean,
Yeah.
Palace have about 3 layers of players before you see a United player. I'm like, how does that happen? Like that if you're practicing set pieces before a game, that shouldn't happen. Then second half, the first goal clearly came from the training pitch, right? That's
Yep.
clearly off a training ground. Uh, it was beautiful for two reasons. One, to see Xerxes get the goal, but also because Dean Henderson, I think, should have saved it. To be honest, Dean Henderson showed me getting beaten as near post like that. Um, and you know, then the second goal, and Mount admitted this after the game, but you could even see it in the moment where it took him by surprise.
Maybe he
Where
wasn't ready.
so it obviously took Palace by surprise too.
Yeah.
Um, and incredibly, James, I was listening to the Talk of the Devils podcast before this, so credit where it's due. They mentioned the stat which stunned me that was the first 90 minutes Mason Mount has completed in a Manchester United shirt. He
Oh, wow. I mean, because he started a few games early this
didn't
year,
know
of
that
course.
himself.
But yeah, I would imagine he has been subbed off. You know, most games he'd been subbed off. In there towards the end, and but he did. Yeah, because usually even at 90 minutes, we make a couple subs. Usually he'll be one of the ones that comes off the pitch. But impressive. I mean, that's good. That's good. I mean, good. It was a good take and all that. But that is crazy. It was a
I mean, I
crazy
don't
start.
think it's a criticism of him that he hasn't done that, James, because
Yeah.
we know he's had injuries, right?
Yeah.
But I was asking the question a week ago about both of these players essentially,
Yep.
and both of them have answered that question. When I was watching the Newcastle Everton game, one of the things that stood out to me, James, that was a massive difference. But when United played Everton, is Voltamata.
Mm,
Newcastle had a big number 9
yeah.
target man that everything went through. United didn't have that. And
Yep.
you worry about Xerxes because he is someone that doesn't have the natural instincts of a striker and will never be that number 9.
Yeah.
I think over the course of a season that would cost you. Um, he's an exceptional footballer. He's just hard to know what kind of team to play him in.
Yep.
But I definitely think that was a big difference when Newcastle played Everton. I think United need Sesko back soon. It sounds like they'll have Cunha back for Thursday. We have midweek football.
Yes.
Not a surprise. But I still think if Mateta had been playing for United at the weekend, I think United would have won that game in the first half. There was a couple of chances in the first half United didn't take, and you're thinking these are the chances that cost United.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, Mateta was really good for Palace in the first half. It was an absolute handful to deal with, and the way that he dropped around, the way that he was running, the physical play that he has, real classic striker play from him. That was exceptional. So yeah, I would tend to agree with that take as well. If United had Mateta, and it does show, why with Xerxes and Sheshko's still going to probably end up being the guy because he's bigger, stronger, faster, has a bit more of those traits that we're going to need in the long term from that number 9 position, which is good. But yeah, I completely agree. It was a huge difference maker. And the other one that I think is very much worth mentioning that has become obvious, more and more obvious every single game. And I try to say this is not a discussion over the quality of said players and or their careers, but Bruno and Casemiro cannot keep up with any midfield in this league. It's so obvious. They get outrun, outdueled, and outworked, and it's just I don't have the answer to it because Bruno obviously will often be dropping back as a solution to the build-up problems because United center backs are not that good at
Mhm.
building the ball up from the back. It was another we'll talk about him without getting too critical of it, but like on the ball, Delict didn't have a great game again there. wasn't a great from the passing out the back is not happening really from the center backs. Bruno's dropping in to support them a lot in that respect, but the midfield just doesn't keep up with other teams, and it's a part of the struggles that we have.
I think that in possession, James, they're fine. It's
Yeah, they
it's
can play with the ball, of
out of
course. Yeah,
possession. So you
yeah,
can still see that Casemiro technically has everything,
of
right?
course, of course.
It's out of possession that you worry about United, and the transitions are too slow. This is
Hmm.
why the defense can't build out. It
Yep.
is really easy to, and United basically went man for man at the weekend
Yeah,
because systems
because it's
matched
the
up.
same. Yeah, yeah.
But you have to, in order to, you have to get that chemistry, that cohesion, where everything happens fast.
Yep.
And you can see it blatantly obvious United are lacking in key areas.
Yep.
Some of those key areas, James, I was a bit surprised to hear Amorim and some of the things that he was saying about Dorgu and the anxiety. I don't know if Dorgu was Amorim saying it or not, but Amorim was here when he was saying
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
I would imagine the bulk of that scouting work and what have you was done pre Amorim, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and you also have to be forgiven for some nuances in language.
Yeah, because
Because
there
when
was the one word that the or
yeah,
there, which I think he was saying they're not
yeah,
at their best, they're not the best players. Like, yeah,
and that was obvious. It's
yeah,
interesting because when you read quotes by aggregators and then actually see the interview itself, the context
very
is
different,
completely
so
different
different.
from what
Yeah,
the literal translation is. And the second part of that comment would have clarified the first part that it was
yeah,
clearly, it's an easy mistake to make, of course. Um, Big difference, however. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was when he also pointed out the week before about training being a big factor in who he selects,
hmm,
which is to me a very personal dig at people. Sometimes I wonder if he would be better to be a little bit more savvy on some of those things. Storg is a young player, and I don't know if that helps him or not. Maybe not. I don't know.
yeah.
But
It's
we
hard to say.
fullbacks, James.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I could say in the alternative, like I can see it for sure in both ways, and we've kind of discussed this before that it seems to be a direction that a lot of the managers are going. We've seen Maresca be
Yeah,
very critical of some of his individual players. We've seen Pep do it a number of occasions. It's got sort of a modern thing where they just talk a bit more openly about some of these things. I don't know if it's good or bad. It just seems to be happening. One of the defenses I could give against that, I could see it another way, is when I watch a lot of the narrative around Patrick Dorgu, a lot of people are just saying he's shit footballer, this and that. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just got no talent, no ability, etc. If you take Amram's comment, he's saying no, he's actually really good. It's just mental. He's just struggling to deal with the pressure, but he's a really good footballer. So you could almost take it, in the other way in terms of the comment of it being a defense of his ability, while saying obviously he's struggling. We got to acknowledge that, but it's not because he's bad. It's because he's struggling with the anxiousness, the pressure of the situation. Which, to be fair, probably the truth. It happens to a lot of United players. It's happened a lot over the years. It is such a difficult environment.
yeah. And look, I was listening to Ashley Cole on the overlap talking about when he played against United. I think it was the 6-1 game, and how he got taken off at halftime and how Wenger didn't say anything to him for a couple of days. He was only 19. He
Mm,
felt that Wenger should have, but he was also honest enough to admit that maybe if he had of, it would have created complacency in me to think that,
right.
it doesn't matter how well I play, I'm still, or how poor I play, I'm going to get in the team. So you don't know
Yeah.
the counterfactual. You don't know how would it impact him if this wasn't said? We don't know. Um, Another player I want to single out is young Lenny Euro, James, because he
Hmm.
came off the field distraught. And I think part of that was the cumulative effect of I think he should have done better for the goal against Everton.
Yep.
Um, this I felt he was less culpable in because it looked like to me he lost his footing. And
Yeah. It was a bit unlucky, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, and we completely forgot about his exceptional clearance, which was
Hmm.
as good as a goal, James.
Yep.
Young lad who holds himself to high standards. Look, we won the game. You're going to have a lot of learning experiences. There isn't many 20-year-olds starting at centre back.
Yep.
And I hope I hope that he doesn't isn't too hard on himself.
For sure. And I mean, I think the positive we can take from it is that Lenny is very, very obviously, which I think is a good attribute to have, a player who doesn't shirk the responsibility when something goes wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather see a player be upset about feeling they didn't play well enough than you get this thing of like, it's nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my, because you see that sometimes when a player gets subbed off, like, what's your problem? I didn't do anything wrong or
Mm.
something. You know what I mean? Because at least there's introspection there, is responsibility. Even if it weighs heavy, you know that it's a player taking it like, I want to do better. I want to play better, and they're looking at themselves in that moment, not feeling like, someone they're being persecuted by, unfair,
Yeah.
management. Because you see that a lot. Players get subbed off after a bad game and it's like, the fuck you subbing me for, like it's, so but I think as well, of course, it wasn't, like you said, I think it was the compounding factor of the Everton goal, and then this penalty thing happening to him in the same, stretch of 2 games that he's getting a start, that it's rough. It's, it feels very consequential at that point in time because United were also really poor, up through the early part of that game. Obviously where I want to see him get back in confidence, because one of the things that I touched on earlier, United were lacking, I think, is the playing out of the back, the aggression from the center backs. There was a point last year when that seemed to click for Lenny, and he was like flying up the pitch with the ball, breaking through the lines, doing the things we know he can do because he has the talent. Not doing so much of that this year, and I think that's a confidence factor and something that hopefully he can get back. But I'm sure he will. He's a young player, obviously extremely talented. I think he'll be fine.
Oh,
I'm not
James,
too worried about him.
I've seen much worse from seasoned professionals and
Oh
captains at
yeah,
United. Like this is.
100%.
I mean, how many times have we seen calamitous errors from players who have been in World Cup semi-finals and finals,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah,
even World Cup winners, and you're like, he's a kid.
yeah,
There's no footballer you can buy that doesn't make a mistake.
yeah,
And I just think we forget how hard that is. I mean, go play football. Go see how many mistakes you make in a game. You make hundreds of them. I think that
mm,
when you're a centre back, if he does that in midfield, it's almost certainly not consequential. When you're a
yeah.
centre back, it is. Um, I wanted to ask you about Adam Wharton, because obviously in the last few weeks we've been able to get a look at Elliot Anderson as well. What was your take on his performance?
I thought it was really good. I thought he was very, very good. I mean, he different in a different way to Elliot Anderson. Elliot Anderson, I think, is one of those all round, top athlete, physical, everything type of footballers that we see that can compete in every aspect of the pitch. Adam Morton is maybe a little more, I don't know what you would call it, but he's not quite as like physically imposing in that sense, that I would say,
Mhm.
but you can tell he's really intelligent in his way of reading the game. Somehow he would always pop up where the ball was, always know where to be when it's coming off of a tackle. His first time passing is perfect. Like, he has such a strong touch. The minute it's there, it's bam, he hits it one time right where it needs to be. Really good vision, really good passing. I thought he was very, very good, and he's still young, still
Should have
room to
scored.
grow. Perhaps, but he also put the pass through to Mateta that ends up in the penalty as well, which was a really nice pass through the lines too. Maybe should have scored. By the way, I want to give praise to Seno Lamens for the save on
Mhm.
that. Not the save itself, but the fact that it didn't go right
Didn't
back to
Still
in
right
yeah.
back out. Hi,
Because if that's on,
Benfica.
if I was thinking at the exact time, I think if that's
I'm like,
Onana,
oh
it's a
shit.
rebound.
Yeah,
It's a rebound. It's a
it was.
goal.
Yeah, it was like your brain had moved 2 seconds ahead, going, "This is going to come straight back out to a
Yeah.
power player and get tapped down." I'm like, "Oh, what a warm blanket!" When he just
Yeah.
held on to
So
it.
nice. So nice.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Really, I think he's good. I think he's a very, very good player. Like, we've seen the three big ones that we've been targeting, right? Baleba, Wharton, and Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson easily the most impressive of the lot,
yeah,
but Wharton very, 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 very good as well.
Wilcox obviously knows him from Blackburn.
Yep.
So we'll have a good contact there. At Palace, with all respect in the world, they're a selling football club. At
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. And Bumo dropped off a little bit last two
Yeah.
weeks, naturally. To be fair, there've been different games where, once Everton scored, they sat deep, they didn't give that space. Uh, so it is encouraging the fact that United have been getting goals from other areas.
Hmm.
But I think Cunha will come back on Thursday.
Yeah.
Um, I think Cunha helps Mbeumo a lot. I think Cunha also helps United start with intensity
Yes.
because he's one
Yes.
of those players that lifts the players around him.
Yep.
United have been very responsible with the management of his concussion.
Yeah.
I think about how United have handled that concussion, James, and then I think about how Liverpool handled the Alexis McAllister head injury,
Hmm.
right? Where they wanted the game stopped out of, the utmost concern for a player. They bandaged up and put back on the field. It's weird how they have these concussion protocols that apply here but not here.
Yeah.
But what do you think he starts on Thursday?
I think so because it's a short turnaround, as you said as well. Mason Mount 90 minutes.
Mm,
First time. We know how careful that Amram has been with players' fitness, which has been an improvement. The last thing I think you'd want to do is turn around and start him again, risk an injury, losing Mount during an important period. It's probably safer with Cunha because it was a head injury, right? He's not like a muscle injury risk or anything like that. He probably hasn't really lost any fitness. It's just concussion protocols. So he's not really going to be an injury risk as Cunha, probably less so even than Mount. I think the interesting question would be to see, is it Xerxes or Mount that comes off though? That I'm curious as well. Do you move Cunha back up to striker, go with that, or do you give Xerxes that extra run again at the number 9 to keep the rest of the team in some continuity and put Cunha at the 10? I'd prefer that because I'd like to see Cunha play in that left 10 position a bit more. I think he has more impact there when he can help the midfield, drop deeper, carry the ball up a lot more, stuff like that.
I was just reading a stat on my phone here. Man United's record since September: 5 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats.
Hmm.
We were talking before the game that there was concern that United would rescind back to where they
Yep.
were after Brentford. And this is the tightrope you're walking with United: is one win can feel like everything's
Yeah.
perfect, and one defeat can feel like, we're on the verge of catastrophe again. And Amarim's going to have to deal with this for a while until
Hmm.
there's some consistency and credibility and equity built up to take a defeat on the chin without it seriously costing you question marks. And but James, that's in the face of it quite a good record. And you look at City at the weekend, struggled against Leeds. Liverpool won a game of football for the first time in a long time. Um, Outside of Arsenal, and again give credit to your evaluation of last year, there's very little difference between 3 quarters of the league, which then leads me to think United have to strengthen in January to give them that momentum because the teams
Yeah.
around them will strengthen. James, to me, it's not good business practice to look at that. I'd stubbornly adhere to we're not buying in January. Sometimes you need to buy in January.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's been numerous times, examples over the years, where purchases in January have provided an important momentum to get United into Europe. The year they signed Bruno Fernandes completely transformed them
Yeah.
and put them in the Champions League. Um, this is a squad to me United need to strengthen in January. There's obvious areas in that team that they have to do that with. Lamans was a transformative signing,
Yep.
right? Maybe left too late. Even though United didn't want to do it, they had goalkeepers on high wages, and it wasn't easy,
Yep.
but it was the right thing to do. Surely they have to strengthen in January.
Yeah, surely. I mean, you tweeted about this. I commented on that. We've talked about it a ton since last year. The difference between like 4th and 5th and 15th and
Yeah,
17th is so little. It's 4 points to second, and it's 4 points to 15th. It's crazy, right? And so it is, these margins are not huge. They obviously separate a little further the more games that are played as we get into January, through this festive period. Those margins will stretch a little, right? But it is that tight, and it's not like you could look at United and say, yeah, they couldn't use a good player in this position. It only has to be superstar, top prospect types like Elliot Anderson. There's numerous positions where you'd say, yeah, good, solid, impactful signing there would make a massive difference to this team right now. Like we discussed about the midfield, that out of possession issues. We know, United still concede the fourth most chances in the league out of possession in open play. And a lot of that's just down to the inability to cover ground and win the duels in the midfield and things like that. Even when it's working, when Casemiro has to come off, it stops working, so there's a lot of issues there. We've seen that left side. Good game from Dallo, by the way. I have to give credit where it's due. It was a good game from him. Not a lot of those around right now, but it was a good game from him. So I have to give
Honest
credit
throw-ins,
to
I
be
have to add
fair.
to.
Yes, his throw-ins, and he drew both fouls for both set pieces that scored the goals as well. He was aggressive. He was a lot better. He was one of the few players I actually thought who, even in the first half, was doing all right. Um, but regardless, we've seen issues on that side in terms of not having that attacking threat. Ruben commented on that as well in the press conference thing about needing like an Ahmad on the other side,
Yeah,
not having that profile of player over there. Center backs, it was good to see Lissandro Martinez get back on the
I was going
pitch.
to say, yeah, lead you
But
back.
of course, what is how maybe it's going to take time. Where's he going to be at? We don't know yet. Maguire, I I think we actually quite miss Maguire playing because of his ball playing out of the back, but he's had this difficulty with injuries for a while now. His age, he's staying fit. We need a little more balance, but there's so many obvious areas where we could strengthen. The midfield. I think if you sign someone in January, that doesn't mean you can't go sign another or two more in summer, and it wouldn't be overdoing it. It needs serious work in the long term. I mean, even with Casemiro and Bruno, all else aside, they're not the future, right? They're not going to be here 3 years from now when we're talking about competing for the league. They're just not. I mean, there's a chance Bruno could be in some capacity, but uh, you need a full midfield contingent.
Well, I mean, Amorim is on the record saying that Bruno's going to have to get used to squad rotation once you need to
Yeah,
get back
starting
into
next
Europe.
year. Yeah. Yeah.
And was thinking about Casemiro because this is where I have to give him enormous credit, consummate professional. What is that old saying? That about planting trees and not being around, just sitting in their shade. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Casemiro is playing for United to get into an elevated position for next season that he
And he
most likely will not be here to
right. Yep.
realize. Um, I think that he has been such a pivotal figure. I wish he was younger, but I
Yeah,
don't think he gets enough credit, James, for a five-time European Cup winner who has never once behaved like he's above United. Where
true.
sometimes some of United's young players would behave like they are.
Yep.
He's never done that. And I think that if he walked away from United at the end of the season, especially if United get into Europe, there's no question he is a positive signing, and there's no question that he has been value for money for me.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're correct in that, and he's committed playing for this team right now. Without European football, without all these things he'd be used to, at Madrid and everything. And I'll be honest, I was thinking this season, for him would be like I'll just take my last year of paycheck and chill out, but it hasn't quite worked out that way. No, so full credit in that respect, but it means we do need January, some of these opportunities, because it's like you were saying with Senna Lamans, how many points has that earned us so far? It's hard to add, but that signing has probably earned us I mean, there are many games I would have not have been confident we would win or have figured
You
out
think they
until
would have
he
won that game at the weekend with Bayern
no
Deer or Onana?
no, so
No way.
because the way the set pieces are dealt with, the way that everything's dealt with would have been different. Like we talked about the rebounds, things like that. Even his passing under pressure is significantly better than both of them.
When Onana and Bandier was goalkeeper, anytime there was a corner or cross, I was shaking like a shitting dog.
Yeah,
Every time it's coming in, I'm like, Jesus Christ, something disastrous is going to happen here, right?
yeah,
And thankfully, United High, we were talking earlier, about the Lamans, just the simple stuff don't
Yep.
spill the ball out. You look at Spurs, Vicario, like, there's just a whole catalogue of calamitous goalkeepers
Yeah.
everywhere. So I think that you get the signing right. That has such a pivotal impact. And I think that they're surgical enough now to know, like, we're not going to react, we respond.
Mhm.
We're not going to react to situations, we'll respond to them. And there's a very big difference. And I think that
Yep.
hopefully United will, I would love to see them bring in a wing back, James, because I
Yeah.
think it adds so much. I don't know with young Dorgu, like, I don't want to put the boot into the kid, but maybe he benefits from a loan, plays a year. Like, I mean, Dallo went to Milan.
Yep.
What was he, 23 when he went to Milan? 22, 23.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
22, I think. Maybe maybe
so
even
it doesn't
younger.
have to be the end of his career. If he comes in, goes out on loan somewhere, I don't think that's necessarily a setback. But as you quite rightly pointed out, the Leeds and Martinez returns. A huge positive, James. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up playing in this
Mhm.
back, these three centre backs. But Luke Shaw, I thought, had a very, very good game at the weekend in contrast to what happened at Everton. So where do we see Leach returning this team?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because
It's a
Amorim
good
doesn't like
question.
him at midfield, as he was saying.
Yep, yep. I mean, it'll pretty much have to be that left center back position, but obviously that's been primarily Luke Shaw's position. Um,
So did they push Shaw into wing back, James?
well, but he's also kind of gone on record saying he probably doesn't want the
Yeah.
physical demands of that. That's one of the reasons Shaw's been able to stay fit. Um, I don't know. I mean, there's obviously we still have an unknown question of, what level Lissandro will return to after these injuries and things like that. Maybe they rotate. Maybe Shaw can play in a slightly. I don't know. It's a strange one, isn't it? Because his qualities on the ball. You wish you had like Shaw to be right-footed and him to be left-footed because they'd make a really good wide center back pairing with the ability on the ball to carry to you. But you need the solutions that Lissandro brings, in a few different ways. I don't know. I honestly have no idea what they're gonna
One
do with
thing
that.
we were talking about Dallo there, James. One thing that does frustrate me about Dallo with his throw-ins, United can be on the edge of a box and Dallo can take a throw-in, and all of a sudden we're 10 yards inside our own half. Like, how many times do United take a ball in advanced positions and then pass it backwards to where all of a sudden you're now inside your own half? Twice I saw United, I think it was from either corners or set pieces on the edge of Palace's box, and within 10 seconds, we'd pass the ball all the way back to Delict.
Yeah,
And I've seen Dallo do this, get in advanced
yeah,
position. Instead of putting the ball in, he knocks the ball 20 yards back. And it's like, I mean, we saw this a lot in the first half, either sideways or backwards football. That obviously is because once you start passing the ball into key dangerous areas where the opposition isn't going to let you have possession, that's really where the system kicks in. That's
yep,
really where quality kicks in. That's the whole purpose of
yep,
the system, to be able to create opportunities. But it seems like, defense is always reacting to attack. But it seems
yeah.
like that, they're predictable in their movement going forward, which is why they have to retain possession by going backwards. That's one thing that does irritate me a bit about Dallo.
Yeah, I hear that. It makes sense. And exactly. So obviously more quality and possession and more ability to, break through those lines, break through those more contentious situations instead of just constantly recycling until it's wide open would make a difference. I think having some players who could carry the ball instead of having to pass everywhere would help too. But again, yeah, that's where I think in terms of it's a balance of how do you now utilize the tools that we have and who can we add to solve a few of these problems that we are seeing.
Well, because what worries me, James, is once this AFCON kicks in,
Yep.
I mean, these are key players that are going to leave big holes. We
Hmm.
talked about the academy, but one of the things where when Xerxes was being criticized in the first half at the weekend, I was thinking to myself, one, we know what type of player he is, and two, is it really fair? This is a guy that's barely played. We're
Yeah.
going to have to ask that of academy players coming in. if they don't get minutes over the next couple of weeks, to then carry enormous responsibility and to have to be match fit because it's
Yep.
going to be an unforgiving pace and unforgiving transition. I can understand why Amorim didn't bring Shea Lacey in at the weekend. See, I thought if he'd have brought him in against Everton, he wouldn't have been criticised. If he'd have brought him in against Palace 2-1 up and then United concede a goal late and he has a poor game, then he gets criticised.
Yeah. Yeah.
A more delicate situation, but somewhere he's going to have to get the
Yep.
likes of Shea Lacey minutes.
Yeah. Well, and I look at again a good opportunity up here, West Ham this weekend,
With no
Thursday. It's a
Paquetá.
yeah.
I feel like this is something 10 years from now. We're going to read one of those stories. Paquetá got sent off to go to the Rio Carnival or something because there was
Right.
definitely a wee bit. Anyway, sorry.
But look, it's a short turnaround again, right? This is where the schedule gets a little busier. It's a Thursday game. The following is Monday. Short turnaround, 3 days off. You would think in here that there might be some rotation possible that lets something happen, and that these next couple games are the best opportunity. It's West Ham, it's Wolves. I think it's Wolves again or something, but I don't remember. We play Wolves twice up here coming up, but these are the right games where, it's like against West Ham at home. We should be able to get ourselves in a game state when we can do something like that, and give him some time without it being too high pressure.
West Ham have been terrible, James.
Yeah.
And I think that is a game United have to win.
Yeah.
That's, to me, a bigger offense than not winning the Everton game.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
this
It
is a
would.
game.
Yeah.
This is where United can come out and be really lethargic
I
because
know.
now you create expectation, and once you create expectation, it can create complacency. So I
Mm-hmm.
think United have to learn from this the way they played against Everton. Even the first half, like the first half shouldn't have happened. James against Palace,
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
the Everton result should have guaranteed that first half didn't
Yep.
happen, but it
Yep.
did, and that's something that United were a bit fortunate not to be punished for.
Yep.
This is something where they can't repeat that mistake against West Ham, and
Yes.
you know just the 3 or 4 wins, James. Look, we all get carried away with defeats. We all get carried away with wins. That's what fans do,
Yep.
right? And Twitter is the worst place in the world to go on
Mm-hmm.
immediately after a win or a defeat because you're emotional, right? Um, but as we've said, I don't think United if United aren't looking at that table saying, as unlikely as it is, top four is a very realistic proposition. If United finished the top four at the end of the season, haven't had a decent, it wouldn't be the shock of the century. They have to
No.
see that as a realistic goal.
Yep. For sure. They do. And because it is realistic. Why isn't it? It's like, it is realistic. We can be there. We should be there. It is an opportunity. We have to take it. But like you said, these games are the ones, like I look at these ones about West Ham and Wolves and coming up and go, look, Wolves have 2 points this season right now, and it's like, these are games. There's just no excuse for these. These are like must-win games, but they're also the games that United win. They will be in that race for top 4 or 5.
Look,
They'll be in them most likely.
I remember after the Forest game, we were talking, and I said, when United tally up their points at the end of the season, no one's going to say it was because you didn't win away at Forest that cost you. But they
Yeah.
will say that if you don't beat West Ham at home. They will say that if you
Mhm.
don't beat Everton at home. Those are the
Yep.
games that
Yep.
cost you. Those are the games you have to win. Anyone that's finishing in the
Yep.
top four are winning those games.
Yep.
So, and to me, that's a better barometer of United than United beating Arsenal in a one-off game. Because we know
Yeah.
that United aren't at that level. We know that they can win in a one-off game, but these are the teams United have to show a differential in. Because look, the second half of the season, this table is not going to be so compact. Now you're going
Yeah.
to start seeing separation between teams as the longer the season goes on, and the better teams will start to pull away. This is an opportunity for United to build momentum. And to me, if United were to beat West Ham, that would be the first time Ruben Amorim is in some type of positive equity situation where I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, now I'm starting to feel like, we extrapolate the body of work. I can have confidence in United's last 9 results that positive improvement. A defeat, just puts him it just puts him in a position of neutrality where you're neither good nor bad. Prior to the game at the weekend, he'd had 12 wins in a year, 1 win a month,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
that's obviously not quite because there's not a full calendar year in football, but
Yeah.
that just isn't
Yeah.
good enough, James. This this period recently shows a consistency that we haven't seen with Manchester United in years. And look, they're winning away games, which is something that Ten Hag
Like
couldn't
you
do.
said, crazy. Yeah.
Um,
It's
and
crazy.
how many nightmares had we seen at Palace? I mean, who can forget the Ten Hag performance at Palace?
4-0. It
Where
was just.
it was
I
honestly,
think it's the worst game I've ever seen, honestly, for United. I genuinely think it's the worst game I've ever seen.
mate, I'd have rather done a kegger at Jeffrey Dahmer's and watch that game again. I swear to God, I'm sitting there going, Jesus Christ, how did United play this badly? So
Yeah.
definitely signs of improvement. What do you expect on Thursday against West Ham?
I'm kind of wondering if the short turnaround isn't to our advantage with some of the lethargy and slow starts because they shouldn't be particularly tired. We've had a decently open schedule. We've only had a couple of games since an international break. You know, maybe the short turnaround's a little better. You travel back Monday, you cool down, you're spending Tuesday on fitness, and Wednesday you're starting to get ready for the game again. Maybe it'll be a little bit better in this instance to get some rhythm going. I feel like United are a bit of a rhythm team, and it seems like maybe it's too, there's a lot of players going to have been so used to playing so many games that the light schedule is good on the body, bad on the brain. You know what I mean? And I think that maybe I'm quite hopeful that we'll see something quite a bit better there. I'm the Everton one because you look at the evidence of it. We've been really bad coming off of international breaks, so long between games, and then they show up and they look like shit. And then we get into it and they get better and better as more games happen. And then the next international break hits, and then they look like shit coming out of the international. And it gets and so now I look at it, I'm like, all right, I think we're gonna keep going up from there. So I think they'll do well. I think they'll do well, and I think West Ham are in a definitely a team United should be beating pretty handily.
I'm gonna go watch it in LA on Thursday. You know that place where you wear the virtual reality headsets and
Oh,
you're actually there. So I'm getting
nice.
paid then
Okay.
to go watch it. So
Cool.
that a few other things I'm going to do down now on Thursday, so
Nice.
I'm looking forward to that. But I haven't had that experience yet with those virtual reality
Sounds cool.
headsets.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that, mate.
Yeah.
I think United will win. I hope they do. I think this is one of the first times, and this is a dangerous territory
I
because
know.
we've been let down before, where I have confidence going into a game based
Yeah.
on the past, where there's a slight bit of trust. Every time I do that with United, you look silly.
I know.
But if you get let down, you feel like you're on the verge, and then you look at
Yeah.
what you were saying 2 days before, and it's like Jesus, you know. But yeah, I have some confidence.
Okay.
I think United will win. Anything else before we go, mate?
I think that's it, my friend.
All right. Since I'm going to LA, maybe we'll do something on Thursday evening if we can work it out. Otherwise,
Yeah. Maybe
if it's
Friday,
something
maybe something
significant,
else.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's do something Friday. I'll be about Friday.
Cool.
Living
Cool.
inspired. All right, mate. Much love.
Alrighty, my friend. See
Cheers,
you later.
James. Cheers,
Thank you,
folks.
everybody.
Thanks for everything. Take care. Bye.